Introduction to the Art of China. If multiplicity shaped the character of Indian and Southeast Asian art, duality is the compelling force behind Chinese art. The paradigm of Chinese duality is yin and yang. Yin is the female principle, the moon, the night, the earth. It is flexible, cold, low, wet, dark, and passive. Yang is the male principle. It's the sun, the day, the sky. It is rigid, hot, high, dry, and active. Yin and yang are interactive. Neither is superior. Life's dynamic energy, as well as its harmony, arises from the symbiotic mix of these two forces. They are mutually supportive opposites. They are polarities that are complementary rather than antagonistic. This philosophical possibility is explored by Chinese philosophers. The underpinnings of Chinese art, thought, and society are embodied in the two philosophies of Taoism and Confucianism. Confucianism is named after Confucius, who lived from 551 to 479 BCE, which was during the Zhou dynasty, and this was before Buddhism had come to China. Confucianism is an ethical code. It is a philosophy, not a religion. It is a set of moral standards governing proper conduct, which, if upheld, would lead to a just, harmonious society. Rules and expectations regulating social and familial relations were part of Confucianism. A big part of this was respect for one's parents, which is referred to as filial piety. Art often addresses the topic of filial piety. There were specialized items such as vessels that were used in ancestral rites that ensured that filial piety continued even after death. Filial piety basically means respecting one's parents and respecting one's ancestors. There's also a respect for one's superiors, and this could be teachers. So oftentimes you will have Chinese ink painters who are showing respect for their teachers through the way in which they are making their brush marks on their silk. The complement to Confucian order is the freedom of Taoism. This philosophy is traditionally credited to the enigmatic Chinese sage Lao Tzu. He was born in 604 and died in 531 BCE, which was also during the Zhou dynasty. The Tao is described as a dynamic, life-sustaining energy that flows through the universe. Artists open themselves to the vitality of the Tao if they are flexible and yielding. Art will have swirls with abstracted lines. This is to simulate the energy of the Tao. The Taoist worldview views the Tao as this vital life force that moves through a great void. And if you were open to receiving it, then you could. Works of art are designed around meaningful negative spaces that provided the structure and the center of interest in the composition. So empty areas are powerful in Chinese art. They provide a pause or a visual silence, which can be more dramatic than a field of activity. The natural world, though, is ultimately the source of inspiration for Chinese artists. Another important component of Chinese society is Buddhism. Buddhism first entered China from India during the later Han Dynasty. So sometimes Chinese Buddhism is referred to as Han Buddhism. Buddhism does not become instantly popular, though. It took over 200 years after arriving in China for it to catch on. And the time in which it did catch on was a time of disorder. There were barbarian invasions, and there was the flight of the northern Chinese to the south. And so they were attracted by Mahayana Buddhism because it had a promise of personal salvation. Buddhism does have two major traditions, the Theravada Buddhism and the Mahayana Buddhism. Theravada Buddhism is the most ancient form, and it draws on the teachings of the historical Buddha. Mahayana Buddhism also follows the precepts of the historical Buddha, believing in the Four Noble Truths and the Eightfold Path, but it also has a further collection of Buddhist traditions. And so it also has many different groups that are part of it. So Zen Buddhism, Pure Land Buddhism, Tibetan Buddhism, these are all forms of Mahayana Buddhism. So Mahayana Buddhism arose in India in the 1st century, and then that is the Buddhism that came to China. And with Mahayana Buddhists, bodhisattvas, or Buddhas to be, they have a greater prominence. And they also believe that aspirants should not just seek personal enlightenment for themselves, but for the enlightenment of all beings. And also that enlightenment can be achieved through numerous means, not just through meditation and personal discipline, but you could also achieve enlightenment through selfless service and working for the benefit of others. Christian missionaries have also been active in China since Roman Catholics belonging to the Jesuit order arrived in the early 17th century. Protestant missionaries then appeared in the 19th century. All the Christian missionaries had difficulty converting the Chinese because Christianity was associated in the popular mind with Western imperialism. By 1949, there were only 3 or 4 million Christians in China, which was less than 1% of the population. Islam also came to China mainly from Central Asia, where it was practiced by many of the Turkic peoples. And today there are about 4 million Chinese Muslims, which again is only about 1% of the population. The communists have discouraged religious practices because they consider them to be anti-socialist, and many temples and churches were closed and their property was taken during the Cultural Revolution. During that time, conditions were especially difficult for Buddhist temples and adherents of any religion because they could be persecuted. And even today, the Chinese government is cautious about all religious activity, especially if it seems to involve foreign people in any way. Depending on the moment in history and the purpose of the object, styles fluctuated between abstraction and naturalism. Works of art were often used as emblems of authority. They were signs of superior cultural refinement. They oftentimes preserved information. They were ways of carrying on ancient traditions. They were also seen as vehicles for self-expression. The world's first known art historian, Chang Yan, in 847 CE, wrote that art helped human relations and explored the mysteries of the universe, that art completes culture. Most of the epochs in Chinese history are named for the imperial family that was ruling at the time. The earliest known era in Chinese culture is called the Yangshao culture, so that's the Neolithic culture. Then from the earliest dynasty, which was the Shang dynasty, all the way through the latest dynasty, which was the Qing dynasty, all of those are named for the imperial family that was ruling. The Han dynasty, from 206 BC to 220 AD, is considered the golden age of Chinese culture. This is the period in which Buddhism was introduced. Modern China began when the Qing dynasty was overthrown and the Republic of China was established. There was a period in which there was civil war and World War II happened, and then in 1949 the communists took power and the Republic of China, the political officials associated with that, went to Taiwan, and so now it's the People's Republic of China. So China still is under communist rule today. Even though things have opened up a little bit, contemporary artists and artists like Ai Weiwei are making works that are pushing back against the restrictions of the communist government. So in the next videos, we will look at the various media that were used by Chinese artists.